So let's directly begin with the definition of diabetes insipidus. It is the defect in production or action of antidiuretic hormone which leads to polyuria, decreased urine osmolality of less than 300 milliosmoles per kg, and increased plasma osmolality of more than 300 milliosmoles per kg. Now the classification. Diabetes insipidus is divided into two types. Central diabetes insipidus is due to defect in the production of antidiuretic hormone, and nephrogenic diabetes insipidus is a defect in the action of ADH. So now let's look at the causes of the two types. The most common cause of central diabetes insipidus is idiopathic. Others are brain tumor, cranial surgeries, head trauma, and granulomatous diseases. Causes of nephrogenic diabetes insipidus include use of toxic drugs like lithium amphotericin B and foscarnet, electrolyte imbalances like hypokalemia and hypercalcemia, chronic kidney diseases, urethral obstruction, and some congenital or genetic defects. The clinical feature of diabetes insipidus is very straightforward. The patient will present with polyuria, nocturia, polydipsia, dehydrations, and features of hypernatremia. In children, features like nocturnal enuresis, failure to thrive, intractable crying, and fever is seen. For the diagnosis of diabetes insipidus, first we will do a 24-hour urine output and the urine osmolality and urine specific gravity. If there is polyuria with low urine osmolality and low urine specific gravity, we proceed to further do a serum electrolytes and plasma osmolality. Presence of low or normal sodium with low plasma osmolality suggests a case of primary polydipsia. But if we have hypernatremia with raised plasma osmolality, our diagnosis of diabetes insipidus is suggested. And now we'll proceed to do the water deprivation test. In water deprivation test, after a particular period of starvation, if the parameters, that is the plasma osmolality, serum osmolality, and the sodium improves, then it is a case of primary polydipsia. Otherwise, it suggests a case of diabetes insipidus. Now we'll administer the exogenous ADH to the patient, and if this leads to improvement in the parameters, means it is a case of central diabetes insipidus. If there's still no change, this means that it is a case of nephrogenic diabetes insipidus. Measuring the level of ADH or copeptin also helps in differentiating the type of diabetes insipidus. In central diabetes insipidus, the level of ADH or copeptin will either be absent or low. In nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, their levels will be normal or higher than normal. The last step is to diagnose the underlying cause. Now let's look at the treatment. For central diabetes insipidus, the replacement of ADH with oral desmopressin or intravenous aqueous vasopressin is available. The only effective treatment in nephrogenic diabetes insipidus is the treatment of the underlying disorder. Thiazide diuretics and high-dose desmopressin may be tried but is not that effective.